Hello, story 19A. It's about a woman, a ghost woman in a tree, and another spirit hawk comes into this. So it's 19A because story 19 was about the spirits that were around my dilapidated old single wide beat up 1970s trailer that had a lot of character in more ways than one. I was out in the middle of the boondocks. I moved out of there a little over a year ago. Moved out finally. I was there for about eight years. Called it home, and I wasn't alone there. In more ways than one. So it's 19A because this has to do with the spirit in the woods there, but it was down the road on a hillside, about 400 meters down the road from my place, and that trailer's no longer there. It's been removed for whatever. So I was out getting my coffee a couple of days ago, thinking about making this video, and I thought, well, why not swing by there and take a picture of the hillside? A picture's worth 1,000 words. So here's the pictures. And you can see there's really not much going on here. A little bit of snow. There's no leaves. To the left in these pictures, there's old abandoned apple trees. I mean, that all used to be an apple grove in there and farmland a long time ago. The farm's long gone. And the apple trees were just overgrown and wild grapevine. And the spirit, the ghost woman, when she was in the tree, was on the left-hand side of this picture, in the top of a very old apple tree, a very large apple tree actually, about in the middle part of this photograph on the middle of the hillside. And what else? No, these apple trees used to be much more grown into. They used to almost hang over the road. The power company came by and really trimmed them away from the lines and really just butchered them, really cut them up pretty good. But in doing so, they also cut away all the wild grapevines that were strangling them. So they'll grow back. So that's it for the photos. This is the hillside where all this story takes place. Back to me. All right, yeah, I'm wearing a hat, so I don't want to blind anybody with this dome. Sorry. Funny hat for my videos. All right, so this spirit was seen there 4 times. The first 2 times I was in a car with my friend Amy. That's to say, this was about 5 years ago or so. 5 or 6 years ago. And it was wintertime, and the road was covered in snow. The whole place was buried in snow. That area gets buried in snow, like waist deep through the winter. So we're driving down that hill at nighttime. Everything's snow covered, like I said. There's no snow. It was a clear night, calm night, no wind blowing. And in the middle of the road, in the headlights going downhill, was a white pillar of what I call ecto white. I don't know what do you call it? You know, the ghostly white, kind of cloudy looking, but condensed. Ecto. I think Ghostbusters, that old movie, I think they coined that term, ectoplasm. It's stuck. I think everybody calls it ecto now. So, a human-sized pillar of ecto, and we drove right through it. And like we both thought, wow, what was that? You know, and right through the car. We drove right through it. And we both thought that was kind of neat, weird, in a weird way. And it wasn't long after that, we were going down that hill again at night. Same place, but this time it wasn't in the middle of the road. The same pillar of ecto, human-sized pillar, was on the side of the road, like standing there on the side. And we both saw it, and we both remarked, there it is again. And thought it was kind of neat in a weird way. All right, didn't see it again after that for a while. The next time I saw it, the 3rd time, same hillside, I was alone, and it was summertime. And this time I'm driving up the hill in the summer, broad daylight, sunny day out, and no fog or anything that could be mistaken. And in the left side, driving up the hill, a ecto figure a white ghostly figure. You could see the arms and legs just come strolling out of the woods, crossed right in front of my car, and kept going right down down the hill into the old apple grove on the other side of the road. And I thought that was pretty neat in a weird way, I gotta admit. So I didn't see anything there for a couple of years. Flash forward in time, didn't see anything there again until the main event in this story takes place. I wanted a little background. At the time, I was on a Luciano Pavarotti opera kick. I really liked Luciano Pavarotti singing. And in particular, I liked Una furtiva lagrima, enough that I learned it in Italian. And living out in the boondocks, and I was living alone, I think at that time, I could just belt it out as loud as I could sing it. I could sing it loud, like I'm belting it out in Italian, and I was going to sing the song for you. And a couple of people recently told me, Tim, you don't want to put that on your channel. And I was like, I'm going to give the world my rendition of Pavarotti's Una furtiva lagrima. No, Tim, you don't want to do that. You don't sound as good as you think you do. You're hearing it through your head. It's not the same way we're hearing it. They both implored me, do not put that out there. So reluctantly, I'm not going to sing it. It doesn't have anything to do with it. Well, it does. Because one day, and it was probably late November, but there was no snow on the ground, and that plays in somewhat. There was no snow anywhere, but the trees were bare. There were no leaves on the trees. So late November day, gray and brown kind of, but it was sunny out, So I'm driving towards that hill alone, and I'm singing Una furtiva lagrima, and I'm really feeling it because I thought I sounded great. I thought I sounded almost like Pavarotti, honestly. And then up ahead of me, right when I'm singing this, in a tree on the left, like I said, is what I thought was a white sheet in the tree. And I'm thinking, what the heck? I slowed down. I'm probably going less than 30. I'm like, how could the sheet get up in the top of that big tree? How could that happen? Wasn't like we had a windstorm or anything to blow it up. There wasn't any wind at all. Nothing. And then I thought, that's bigger than a sheet, bigger than a bed sheet, even a king size. I thought, well, I used to have a big white painter's tarp cloth thing. It was about as big as a whole room, this dining room that I'm in. So I thought, maybe a painter's tarp. It's all I could come up with as I'm looking at this. And I'm thinking, how did a painter's tarp get up there in the top of a tree? And as I'm thinking this, I'm drawing closer to it. And I'm slowing down almost to a stop. It starts coming out of the tree. And it didn't tumble like if it was a sheet or a cloth, it would have. No, it didn't do that. And there wasn't any wind that day. No, it came down like something on an escalator. It didn't move at all. Just descended at a steady pace without moving right down to the roadside. Right next, I stopped the car and I'm looking at it. There's no traffic on that road, really, to speak of. So I stopped the car and I'm looking at it, and it's a woman. And she came right up to my car window. My car window was rolled up. I'm no longer singing. I'm shocked. I'm in a state of just shocked. I wasn't frightened. I was just really taken off guard. And I'll describe her. I'll tell you, she was probably this close to me. On the other side, she came right up to my window and was staring at me. The white dress, if you could call it a dress, it didn't really have any seams or anything. It was just a mass, but it wasn't, it looked like it had strips of cloth, like pieces of cloth about that thick, and just like it was made up of rags, really. And they were all floating, and it was white. It wasn't dirty or anything. It was just white rags, and they were floating like they were laying in the water with ripples, floating, undulating, all these whatever it was. And it was large. It was all around her. And I think it was her garment because it came down and you could see her bust, cleavage. And yes, I did notice this. Because it came down like a V and you could see her cleavage. Okay, and her complexion, that is to say, I saw her face, neck, and cleavage. Sorry. It was tan. It looked healthy, like a really robust tan with like a copperish hue to it, which made me think later it might have been a ghost of an Indian woman. So her hair was jet black, and she had a lot of hair, and it, like her cloth, was all the way around her, above her, and all around her, and floating like the cloth. Like it was like she was floating in on her back in the water, because her hair and her cloth were just splayed out around her hair and her fabric, whatever it was, and it was all just floating, as if she was floating on her back in water, and it was undulating. And her eyes she had dark brown eyes, or black really, but I could see the whites of her eyes. It wasn't like her whole eyeball was black. No, you could see the whites. And she was staring at me like this far away, wide. I mean, her eyes were like this, wide open. And yeah, she was very wide-eyed, just staring at me. She didn't say anything aside from the movement of her hair and whatever that white gown she had on, rags, ecto, I don't know what you'd call it. It was her cover, it was her clothing. Because like I said, you could see her cleavage and her skin down there, and so it was some kind of a gown. Oh, she was just staring at me. And I was shocked. I was staring back. I couldn't see her mouth very much. It was kind of shadowy. This was shadowy. The rest of her I could see quite clearly. And if I had to put an age to her, I'd say she was probably 25. She looked healthy, aside from being a ghost. Looked like a healthy ghost. I know that sounds weird, but I'm trying to be as descriptive as I can here. And I don't know. I couldn't tell you why she did that. It's like she was waiting for me or something. Maybe she liked my singing. I don't know. But after about, I think it was like 5 or 10 seconds, I stood there for a while. And I wished I'd thought to pick up my cell phone and take her picture. It never occurred to me. I never took my eyes off her. I was really shocked staring at her. And I was probably as wide-eyed as she was. Honestly. I wonder what would happen if I'd taken her picture. You know, one of those what ifs. Would she have flipped out on me, or who knows how it would have looked? It would have been interesting, though. Hindsight. When you see something like this, I never think to take a picture because it always takes me off guard. Even if I have a camera around or a phone around, I don't think of it. These things happen to me when I'm not expecting them, almost all the time. Like this time I was singing some song, you know. Spooky stuff was the last thing on my mind. So, after about 5, maybe 10 seconds of us staring at each other, I punched it and took off real fast. And when I started to take off, it's like, I swear it's like she punched the car, because I could plunk on the side of my car. And I got out of there. I got down the bottom of the hill. And at this point, I was kind of afraid because I thought maybe she's still with me in the car. So I started doing some serious praying for protection. And I called up my friend Amy, who had seen the spirit on that hillside with me twice before. And I told her, hey, I saw her. It's a woman. I said, she came out of a tree. I saw her on that hillside. And she believed me, of course, because she's seen something there twice. And this person had a lot of their own they encounter a lot of stuff too. I'm not the only one. So now and then I meet people who are kind of the same in that regard. So she, being the good Catholic that she is, she said, I'm praying for your spiritual protection, Tim, right now. And she's saying a prayer, and she says she's envisioning God's light and protection coming down all around that car, and protecting me and drive out anything that might not be good. So that's the end of that. I thanked her for that. And I avoided that hill for a while. I used to go the long way around to get to my house. And I finally got my nerve up and started driving up and down that road. You know I'm looking for things. I never saw her again. Or that pillar. Anything ghostly. Except, and I don't know if I'd call this ghostly. This is even stranger than the woman in the tree. I'm going to tell you what happened. It was summertime, and I was alone, and I was driving up the hill, and I saw about half the same place where the woman was in the tree that came down to the road to me, but on the other side of the street, there was a large white hawk, and it was summertime, so this big white bird, a hawk, I saw this right away, and I'm like, wow. I thought that was so cool. I slowed down, because I like hawks. I always notice them when I see them. This is where you're going to have to take a giant leap of faith with me on this story. One of those times, kind of goes out the box for ghost stories. All right, so I'm slowed down, and this white hawk flew up to my car, and if this was my car, and I'm halfway up the hill, and I'm going slow, it came up right alongside of my car. I could have rolled my window down and put my hand on it, on its wing or back. I could have literally done that. It never left the side of my car. It followed me all the way up. It never flapped its wings. It just glided. And I'm looking at it, and I know this isn't natural. And I'm thinking, this is something pretty cool. And it was indeed a white hawk. All white, all white. And this thing followed me. It did not move 1 inch from its position, which was right next to me. Right next to my car window. And big bird wingspan about like that. And followed me all the way up the hill. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get a picture of this. I'm going to get a picture of this. So I got to the top of the hill and I pulled over and got my phone and, try to activate it, get it ready. Because if this was really something. And the hawk didn't fly off. It didn't fly off. When I pulled over, the hawk went over and landed on a tree. Really, a limb real close, and was watching me. And I got my camera finally ready, and the hawk's right outside my window. I rolled the window down. I go to take a picture, and then it flew off. So I didn't get the picture. Or you can bet it would be on here. Well, I thought this was pretty special. I thought it meant something. I don't know what. I thought it was related to the Indian woman. I think it was an Indian woman in the tree. And I Googled it. I was really onto this. I was telling everybody about it that day. And I Googled it. There are no white hawks indigenous to New York State, or even, I don't even know if there's any to America. But there's definitely no white hawks. And that thing was snowy white. And it wasn't an owl, it was a hawk. And I know what a hawk looks like. And it was very close to me. There's no white hawks. But what I did read was a white hawk in Indian spirituality, and I'm Christian. I follow the Bible, as you probably figured out. I would consider myself a fundamentalist, an open-minded fundamentalist, a tolerant fundamentalist. Up to a point, I don't condone bad things or, whatever. So I read that this thing was supposed to be a powerful spiritual omen, a white hawk in Indian spiritual lore, whatever, practice, American Indian. That is. Now, there's one little piece to this story I want to add, and that a friend of mine that lives in that area, still does, and his family's lived there for generations. And I don't see this guy very often. And I saw him, and he told me he never heard any of these stories. I don't see the guy but a couple times a year. He certainly never heard this story I just told you. He told me that his grandfather told him that where I live and that hillside, that area, was where his grandfather told him the Indians used to bury their dead there. And I'm like, wow. And I said, really? He says, yeah, his grandfather always told him. But they were good to people. He said, if you never got a deer, they're all deer hunters around there. His grandfather told him, you go to that place and the Indians there, if you leave them some food or something, I forgot, some part of it, like something, a gift. They will gift you with a deer. You're guaranteed to get a deer if you go there to that land and leave some kind of gift. I don't remember what he said about that, honestly. So then I told him about the story that I just told you. And he just kind of, yeah, he totally believed it. He thought it was pretty cool, in fact. So I've never seen anything there since. After that, I still lived there for a couple of years after that. And I never saw anything after the White Hawk flew away. I never saw anything there again. And I hate to say it, I hate to admit it, but I was looking. I mean, when I drive down there, I was looking. I wasn't going down there deliberately trying to find things. So that's story 19A. I've got about 30 more stories, and I've got some real doozies that I'm gonna tell them. And I've got some that are rather minor. I think I'm gonna hit some minor ones. I got to knock them out of the way because said in the other one, I've got something I want to follow up with when I'm done telling all these stories. I've got a little more things I want to do. So we'll get through them. Thank you, and have a great day.